how does like Tommy deal with? Because I know a lot of genuinely good actors struggle with like ADR and things like that. I was just wondering how that process went for Tommy.
Yeah, the sound was a little bit off. I know for me it was awkward when I had to do the sex scenes and kind of pretend like, oh, yeah, you know, that was awkward for me. I think Tommy was very much a perfectionist. He wanted to be in the sound booth and make sure each line got out right. Yeah, I think it worked pretty well. Yeah, he was, and it was kind of the same thing with his interview on the DVD. He wanted to make sure every line was said perfectly.
Yeah, how did you meet Tom Bissell, and like, how much of the book is actually his work?
I read an article by Tom that he wrote about the room, and I thought it was great because it took the room seriously and Tommy seriously, which is what I wanted to do with the book. So when we teamed up together, I just kind of sat down and wrote out the whole story from beginning to end, and then I sat with him, read my story. We talked into it, recorded it on a tape, and then he went through, kind of told it his way, and we kind of went back and forth. So it was a really strong collaboration, which I think is the best way to do a memoir. I think if you just kind of sit there and expect, your co-author to try to tell your story, it's never going to come out the way it should. So it was a really fun collaboration.
Because I was thinking, like, I can barely remember what happened last week, and you just to look back and like remember every detail of everything Tommy said at those points.
Yeah, it was, well, I mean, it was something you couldn't really forget. The experience was so surreal, and it was very much an emotional memory. And I also was lucky to have a lot of the behind-the-scenes footage to go back to. And while I was working on the book, I got to travel with Tommy around city to city, so it was very fresh, the things he would say. And yeah, it all kind of came together.
Well, I have a question that follows that. By the way, I'm from Argentina. You have followers there. That's how.
Where are you from?
Argentina.
Oh, cool.
And that's what I found out about the room. So
amazing.
That's an impact. So my question is sort of about the book. So I read it was great, and I thought they had so many great stories that maybe when you were making the selection, you had to leave something out because it was maybe boring, maybe not interesting enough. But did you leave anything out because you might think it would cause concern on Tommy, or did you?
Yeah, well, when I started working on the book, I interviewed Tommy. He was the first person I told that I was going to do the book, and so I sat down and kind of gave him a chance to tell his story, which he did. And so whatever he told me about his story, I put in the book, and stuff that he wouldn't want to share, I didn't think belonged in there, because it was really a chance to tell my story along with my journey, getting to know him and making the room. So, yeah, there was no point to put stuff in there that he didn't want to say.
And what about your side of the story, like aside from what he told?
I think I pretty much put everything in there that was relevant to why I was going through. I think I put in some stuff that I wasn't particularly proud of. There was another mark the night before filming. I mean, Tommy said he was going to fire him anyway, but kind of backing into a role that way was really uncomfortable. But it just goes to show what the experience was like. So if I shrink away from telling those things, then the story doesn't work. So I tried to be as honest as I could.
Have you seen James Franco's adaptation of the book yet?
Yeah, I saw a cut of it, and it's everything I think you guys are hoping it will be. When I was working on the book, I always saw it as a film, so I always pictured Tommy as like Javier Bardem. That was what I was picturing, and when I got to see the film, I realized that the only person that could do this story justice in the sense of playing Tommy was James Franco, and he just did a tremendous job. When you're watching the film, you almost feel like you're watching Tommy, which for me was incredible, knowing him as long as I have. And what was cool about James is that when he was on set, he was always Tommy. He was dressed like Tommy. He was talking like Tommy. Even if he wasn't in scenes, he was directing that way. So you got to give it to the guy.
Do you know when the film's out?
It's supposed to come out some premiere in the spring maybe. So I'm thinking April or May maybe.
So has
has the room got you any acting jobs? Or
That's
acting
what's
jobs?
funny about The Room is it's such a bizarre phenomenon because it's not created by Hollywood in any way, and it's not a film you can kind of put on and be like, hey man, hire me. Because the dialogue you're saying is kind of, it's not really relatable, but you know, it's something that people respond to, and it gives you the chance to be creative, but you've got to work for it. So, you know, it gave me a chance to do the book, and you know, also a chance to work on what I'm working on now, which I'll show you as a special surprise at the end of this Q&A.
What does Tommy think of the book?
He calls it the Red Bible, and then he said he approves of it 40 to 50%. So I think it's good. I think it's a good grade from him.
Thanks for coming to Liverpool again. You've been here 3 times, I think?
This is my 3rd time. I came when I was working on the book the first time, and then I came back just as the Franco announcement happened, and now I'm back with the Franco film done, and just keep coming back to Liverpool.
And how much of your time during the year do you spend in other cities, and where's been the weirdest or wildest place you visited?
It's a good question. I mean, it's really brought me to so many different spots. After this, I'm going to Norway and Denmark and Iceland. So I think the fact that I'm going to Iceland is probably going to be the most interesting, because who would have ever thought you would go to Iceland for The Room? But and who knows well, you know, what's next?
Not like 1% of the population there living in that room.
Yeah, I never would have expected. I mean, I thought when I went to Ireland that it was mind blowing, but Iceland was pretty surprising.
During your time living with Tommy, what did your friends think about living with like the weird vampire guy? Like, did you ever not bring people home because you'd be like scared that he was there?
Yeah, well, the phone wasn't supposed to ring usually before noon, and there was this friend that I had. I had to refer to Tommy as my cousin just to make it a little bit more normal. So one time this guy I was going to school with called, and Tommy was like, "Please stop calling." He's like, "Your cousin and I are gonna have a fight here if he doesn't stop his attitude." And I was like, "Oh God, it's going bad." And then he would answer the phone when other people from my acting class I was taking, and he talked to them for a while. Yeah, so I had to massage it and kind of make it sound like it was my cousin, but it was awkward to say the least.
Have you ever known Tommy to have a girlfriend?
I don't. He's pretty secretive, so I haven't really met any of them if they've happened. But I thought I'd love to see who he would date. I thought that would.
Was like a tipping point when Tommy stopped calling it like a serious film and admitted that it was a comedy, or was it like gradual?
You know, it was when we went to the premiere. I had seen it with family and friends, and so we got a kick out of it. Like, check out this thing, and the shock value was great because they'd be like, "Who the fuck is this guy? And what is this?" But I never thought I would see it with an actual audience. So when we had the premiere, it was pretty amazing because as soon as the logo came on, everyone started laughing. And I'd never seen that, ever. And then he opens the door and everyone starts laughing, and then I thought, oh shit, what's going to happen when those sex scenes come on? And so I took off into the lobby, was hanging out, and then people started coming out, like the blood was just a drain from their face. And then these 2 guys walked out, looked at each other, and said, I'll never get hard again. And so at that point, it was, yeah, I thought nobody would see it. And at the premiere, everybody was laughing through the whole thing. I mean, even when he shoots himself, they were roaring with laughter. So he got some advice that, Tommy, your natural talent is comedy, and maybe it's a dark comedy, why not? And so at the end of the trailer, he kind of tacked that on. But I think he still believes that it's a great film. I think which it is, but he believes that it's the next Streetcar Named Desire, so more power to him.
If you see James Franco, tell him that I'm calling it, and he hasn't even time to call it yet.
Say that again?
Frank, I know that I've been calling him, and that he needs to call me back.
Yeah, absolutely.
Nick?
Yeah, right.
Have you read the Room novelization? Do you think it does the film justice if you have?
No, I haven't. Is it any good?
Yeah, it's all. I mean, based on the source material, I think they did pretty well.
What's cool is the original play that Tommy wrote had no Denny, no Chris R. It was very bare. It was just based on like these people in his life at the time. And then when he decided to make it into a film, it's like all of a sudden there was drug deals and multiple makeouts with like Michelle and Mike, you know, so it's just kind of evolved. So the novelization, I wonder who else would make it in now. Maybe Chris R would have like a brother or something.
Maybe finally a backstory.
Yeah, that would be nice.
So you mentioned that several of the main characters were based on people in Tommy's life. So have you ever tried to speculate as to who was the inspiration for Lisa or Mark or?
Yeah, I think there was a real life Lisa, and I think that's why the film is so relatable because it's really passionate, and you can see that there's a message coming through. And I think Claudette, I think Lisa were real people in his life, and I think they spoke verbatim what he put in the script. I think Claudette probably had breast cancer, and he never found out what happened, so he never put it in. And then I think I was probably Mark and Denny, kind of a mix, you know, paying for the apartment and you know, being his friend, and I think and I think that's what makes it interesting is it's so real, like this, it's a cry out for help in a way.
I really love the book. I was just wondering if, because you were so honest in it, if it's changed your relationship with Tommy in any way.
Not really. I mean, he didn't like, you know, the making of The Room stuff because I think he felt that The Room is still a great movie, and you know, I was honest about the way I think about it. But I mean, it's still pretty much the same. I mean, when you've been friends this long and you've gone through such weird experiences, I think there'll always be a bond. But yeah, no, everything's cool.
From what I saw in the book when I was listening to the audiobook, which by the way, fantastic. Tommy was so impressed about the entire thing.
Too much practice.
And from the making of documentary, would you say this is probably one of the more surreal experiences in filming that you've had throughout your career, or?
I think it is the most improbable experience, just because there's nothing really else like it, and I don't think it's something that could ever happen again, because there's just too many things that had to go right or wrong, you know, whatever way you want to look at it. So it's just something that I think I've always had a sense of humor about, and so I've always been able to embrace and accept it. It also helps that I didn't expect anything from it. I didn't expect anybody would see it, so I didn't put too much effort into it. So it's kind of random that something you don't try at all on is the thing that, you know, people respond to and kind of gives you a chance. So the whole thing is just something that I think will take a lifetime to comprehend.
Okay, hello. I wonder about will it be? I have mentioned in the documentary that if there will be a 3D version of The Room. That's quite interesting. And another point is that where the soundtrack of The Room is quite nice, and will be a vinyl in the future. I think
there needs to be a vinyl, definitely. You Are My Rose. Yeah, The Room 3D. He had talked about that for a while, but we haven't heard anything from it. I would like to see him walk out of bed in 3D. Not.
What role in your career have you been most proud of? What film?
Film is tough to say. I'd say the book is probably the thing that I'm most proud of, because I think it's something that I actually had creative control over. So many times as an actor, you kind of get thrown into things and you just appear and you don't have any control of what's going to be edited or how you're going to look. So the book was finally something that I can stand by, that I'm like, shit, this is finally something that I can say is my work. But the thing I'm working on now, I think is gonna be pretty cool, and I think actually, I mean, I've only showed it to a couple people, so it's kind of like a private thing. So you guys are one of the only audiences that have seen it. So I guess we can run it and see what you guys think, and then have a few more questions after that. Hopefully this will be synced. I don't know where the guy went. I guess we can keep going until he turns it on.
So has Tommy seen other movies?
He has seen Spartacus, Streetcar Named Desire, Guns of Navarone, Rebel Without a Cause, anything that's made before 1965.
Sounds like Mr. Ripley.
Did we get a definitive answer on where Tommy's from?
Somewhere between Mars and Transylvania, maybe.
In the documentary, they said that they were spending like 8-hour days. Some of the actors with like 30 seconds worth of screen time. Why did they have to spend so long?
I think Tommy as a director is very moment to moment, so all of a sudden if he decides this is going to be the scene, then he just kind of moves people in. I kind of likened it to having Star Wars figures and kind of moving them into random scenes because you just feel like it. So, you know, football and tuxedos.
So did all the actors have to just stay on the set like all the time?
Yeah. I think they figured they were going to be in scenes, and then when that didn't happen, they started asking questions, and his answer was always, "If you want to be actor, act like one." And so everyone just kind of went with it.
Were you paid in actual money?
Kind of. One of the perks that Tommy convinced me to make the room was a new car. So I guess that counts somewhat, but it was a car that we ended up sharing, so.
When you first met Tommy with the whole just weird long hair appearance and hiding behind a black curtain, did you ever genuinely think even for a moment that he was a vampire?
I did for a little bit. There was something very kind of childlike and harmless about him, so I was never scared in any way. But he definitely had vampire qualities and would talk about vampires a lot. So I was worried, you know, about my neck a few times, but like I said, he seemed harmless.
So speaking of vampires, is it true at one point he said he wanted to end it with Johnny turning out to be a vampire and then fly away in his car?
That was an idea, yeah. He was pitching that to the DP, and the DP was saying no. What is this? We're gonna have a car flying off the roof. But I really wish they kind of got out of his way and just let Tommy make this script, have a vampire fly off the roof. I think they were trying to kind of bring him back down to earth, which is not something you should do.
And what about the other projects that Tommy has done, like the house that drips blood on Alex or whatever? I don't know. If you've seen all these Tommy things.
Yeah, you know, I think Tommy's at his best when he's being serious and doing something dramatic. You know, a lot of times when he's doing other people's material, he kind of becomes like a circus animal instead of really trying to perform. So I'm hoping he gets back to that routine instead of kind of bouncing around and saying other people's stuff.
And what do you think of the neighbors?
I haven't seen it. What did you guys think? How long did you last?
We had to
We were
watch
stuck
it
here.
on before showing in the room.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Was that when Tommy was visiting?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Better than Seinfeld.
What's it about?
I don't know.
And you can mention there is a love is blind in front of the column of the fact.
Oh, really?
Love is Blind, right?
Yeah. Yeah, Love is Blind. Yeah, so how was it different from The Room? Was it just...
I think he was trying to be funny deliberately, which
Oh, okay.
maybe doesn't fit.